In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim. He was in the beginning with Elohim. All came to be through him, and without him not even one came to be that came to be. In him was life, and the life was the light of men, and the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There was a man sent from Elohim whose name was Yohanan. And this one came for a witness, to bear witness of the light, that all might believe through him. He was not the light, but that he might bear witness of that light. He was the true light, which enlightens every man coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world came to be through him, and the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own did not receive him. But as many as received him, to them he gave the authority to become children of Elohim, to whose believing in his name, who were born, not of blood, nor of the desire of flesh, nor the desire of man, but of Elohim. And the Word became flesh, and pitched his tent among us. And he saw his esteemed as of an only brought forth of the Father, complete in favor and truth. Yohanan bore witness of him, and cried out, saying, This was he of whom I said, He who comes after me has become before me, because he was before me. And out of his completeness we all did receive, and favor upon favor. For the Torah was given through Moses, and the favor and truth came through Yeshua, Messiah. No one has ever seen Elohim, the only brought forth Son, who is in the bosom of the Father, he did declare. Now this was the witness of Yohanan, when the Yehudim sent from Jerusalem priests and Levites to ask him, Who are you? And he confessed and did not deny, but confessed, I am not the Messiah. And they asked him, What then are you? Elijah? He said, No. Are you the prophet? He says, No. Therefore they asked him, Who are you? So that we can give an answer to those who sent us. What do you say about yourself? And he said, I am a voice of one crying in the wilderness, Make straight the way of Yahweh, as the prophet Isaiah said. That's the book of John. So in the book of John, we are introduced to who other than Jesus, whose name is Yeshua, who is the Mashiach, and who is the high priest, Melchizedek priest, meaning he speaks for a righteous king. I guess the question here in this Bible study on this Sabbath day, I hope you guys are having a blessed time, blessed morning. I know I am, and we know according to Mark 2 that the Sabbath was meant for man and not man for the Sabbath. So one thing I really enjoy doing is making sure I do not ritualize the Sabbath. I do everything I possibly can to make sure I get done with work by sundown. Thankfully, this has become a real fun tradition because a friend gave me that from Israel. It's a shofar. I'm terrible at blowing it, but it's still a lot of fun. Right? It makes noise and it echoes in here. So that's a lot of fun. I try to do a lot of preparation work and make sure that my wife doesn't have to do any kind of cooking or anything on the Sabbath. I try to make sure she can rest because she works super hard. And there are things that have to be done, though. We aren't supposed to be creating on Shabbat because in Genesis, the Lord said, it is good, and then he rested. He did no creating. it doesn't say anywhere that he lit some candles and went to a bunch of places and whatever. He stopped, he chilled, and probably reflected on it, kind of like if you're working on something. I just finished a really cool project. I built a pergola for some friends, and I get to go take a look at that today and hang out with them. But the idea is that we stop creating, because we use our soul when we create. We use our mind, our soul, our tactile responses, our eyes, our ears. We are in, when I was building this pergola for the last couple days, my helper didn't show up, so I had to do it all myself, which I thought I was kind of angry at first. But after a while, when I was getting into it, I just felt like something was releasing from my inner parts. Thankfully, there was a couple of strong boys there to help me with a couple heavy pieces. But other than that, it was a matter of, engineering a better way to do something by yourself, or just working harder, just like lifting that thing up and holding it for a period of time and running a screw in. And it was really warm, and that was just a lot of joy, because you're just coarse sweating out just toxins, because a lot of times people spend their lives in air conditioning, and I think that really disables the body's system that it uses to exhaust toxins. So anyway, now it's in the morning, and I woke up, had a cup of coffee. I checked on my smoker, because I put meat in a smoker yesterday and got her lit. So she's been just kind of percolating all night, and seems like we're getting close to the end, where I'm going to take it out and put it in a cooler wrapped in towels so it can rest for a couple hours. Then we'll eat. So that's my Sabbath, just hanging out, listening to hummingbirds, and putting together a devotion time that I am sharing here. So, but if you are going to start doing the Sabbath, a lot of people are curious about it. Don't ritualize it. And there's a reason that we are practicing to keep Torah. It's a practice. When you're practicing basketball, you don't make every shot. When you're practicing track, I don't know. When you're practicing carpentry, you make mistakes. I made a big mistake, cut a board too short, and it was a 2x10 by 16. I had to go get a new one, which means I had to hook up my trailer because it's too big for my truck, blah, blah, blah. So it's not a matter of a ritualized thing. If you want to establish a tradition, maybe you want to blow a horn, ring a bell, shout out for joy, sing a song. That's totally up to you. It's nice to have a kind of like when you're done with work. Sometimes there's in the old factories there was a horn that you could almost hear throughout town, where it would be a warning horn, or a church bells signal that church is going to start soon, or dinner bell. There's all kinds of signals, right? And sometimes it's really nice when you're trying to separate this portion from this portion to have a little signal. So I did not really have one until I got this thing. I blow that one and that's it. And what is it about the Sabbath? It's how we worship. It's one of the ways we worship God. So when I read one here, we're looking at, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim. Now you can, there's a lot of things to discuss there, but the bottom line is, Yeshua is not in conflict with Elohim. He was with Elohim. He is the Word, and that Word is the Torah. It's how everything was created. Every single thing that everything in the world, under the firmament, right, on earth, was created through the Word, and the Word was Elohim. And then he came to earth, he put on flesh, and he had fellowship with many people in the past. And then a lot of bad stuff happened, and then he realized, he was going to have to atone for people if he wanted to have fellowship with his nation and preserve his nation. And so the question is, how can I worship Jesus, and should I worship Jesus? Well, I say yes to both of those. Let's spoiler alert. In the beginning was the Word. That's Jesus. And the Word was with God. Okay? And the Word was God. And so we have every opportunity to worship him. And then the question then becomes, how do I worship him? Well, to do that, we need to ask a couple other questions. Who is he? Well, in John 1, it says he is the Word. What is the Word? Well, the Word is him. Well, what is an expression of the Word? Genesis through Deuteronomy, right? And then smatterings here and there where he made specifics, but the instructions and the creation account are Genesis through Deuteronomy. Okay, where is he from? Where is this word from? Well, it says that he was in the beginning with Elohim. All came to be through him, and without him not even one came to be that came to be. In him was life, and the life was in the light of men. So Elohim is a spirit and is a flesh. And Jesus said to everyone, my Father is greater than I. Because the spirit is greater than the flesh, absolutely. And throughout scriptures, it shows a plurality of powers. The spirit is given a personification. It's a feminine personification. I think that's more of a metaphor for us to understand it. But Yeshua describes it in John 3 as wind. And throughout scripture, it's described as the nature, power, influence, wisdom, things like that stuff. So there's a lot of spirits of Yahweh, because it is many things. It's influence, it's nature, it's spirit, it's power, it's life, okay, and it sits at the narrow gates. So he's from Elohim. What is he doing? What is this word doing? In the beginning was the Word. He came down here. John the Baptist proclaimed him, and so he came to make fishers of men, and he came to talk, and he talked to the masses. So what did he say to the masses? Well, we can look in Matthew 5, 17 through 20. And one of the things that was very significant that he said is, do not think that I have come to destroy. Well, if we just read Matthew 5, but when he saw the crowds, he went up in the mountains, and he was seated, and his taught ones came to him, and having opened his mouth, he was teaching them, saying, blessed are the poor in spirit, because there is the reign of the heavens. Blessed are those who mourn, because they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, because they shall inherit the earth. What are the meek? The meek are those who humble themselves and submit to the word of God. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, because they shall be filled. Blessed are the compassionate, because they shall obtain compassion. Blessed are the clean in heart, because they shall see Elohim. Blessed are the peacemakers, because they shall be called sons of Elohim. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteous sake, because there is the reign of the heavens. I've heard this before, but I've heard it from people then who deny the Torah for the church. But blessed are those who persecute for righteous sake. What is righteousness? What is righteousness? Where is it found? Blessed are you when they reproach and persecute you and falsely say every wicked word against you for my sake. Rejoice and be glad, because your reward in heavens is great, for this way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt becomes tasteless, how shall it be seasoned? For it is no longer of any use, but to be thrown out and trodden down by men. You are the light of the world. It is impossible for a city to be hidden on a mountain. Nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it shines to all those in the house. Let your light so shine before men, so that they see your good works and praise your Father in heaven. Do not think, listen, do not think that I come to destroy the Torah or the prophets. I did not come to destroy, but to complete. You say, he completed it. What does complete mean? For truly I say to you, till heaven and earth pass away. Now, we're on earth, and we look up and we see the heavens. We see the heavens and the stars and wandering stars and planets suspended in the firmament. And the earth is going to be made his footstool. So clearly those things haven't passed away. So, till heaven and earth pass away, not one yod or tittle shall by no means pass from the Torah till all be done. That's the 8th day, by the way. We can talk about that at some time. Whoever then breaks one of these least of these commands and teaches men so shall be called the least in the reign of the heavens. But whoever does and teaches them, he shall be called great in the reign of heavens. For I say to you that unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you shall by no means enter the reign of heavens. And some people say, I could never exceed the scribes and the Pharisees. No, that's not what he's saying. What he's saying is they are breaking the Torah. You need to be exceeding that. They're not going to see the kingdom of heaven because the tribe of Judah became a greater mess than Israel. Israel made a mess and was scattered. And then Judah saw what happened to Israel, get captured by the Babylonians, Assyrians, whatever, scattered. And Judah brought in her own gods, the 6 stars of Ramoth and everything. And she played a greater harlot than Israel even. So to exceed the scribes and the Pharisees is to follow the commandments of God. Okay? So you heard that it was said that those of old, you shall not commit murder. Whoever murders shall be judged. But I say to you, whoever is wroth with his brother. So then he goes on to show these commandments and how to express them in an actual spiritual way. I mean, clearly we're not to kill, but that's not where Yahweh was trying to get to. Yahweh wants a loving covenant relationship. In the same way, if you make a bunch of rules for your wife, and maybe she makes them for you, whatever, and then you just go by them. I did the dishes, and you made sure you don't do anything else but what was specifically wrote. That's what the Jews were doing. That's what happened. Okay, so there's worship of foreign gods, and there's worship of their own traditions, and they're ignoring the covenant relationship. The vows that were given on Mount Sinai were to be a part of a covenant relationship. Like Abraham loved Yahweh. He walked in favor. He sinned, but he was still in favor because he loved him. And you can tell if somebody loves you. You can tell if your wife is loving you, or if she's tolerating you, or if she's just, doing the I'm being a good wife or I'm being a good husband, right? There's a difference, right, between the covenant relationship and just following a letter of what is the commandment, right? So that's what we're trying to get away from. Yes, there is a covenant. Yes, there is a set apart norms of the house so that you can stay safe and stay clean. And then there's a loving side where you're like, man, I can easily do this. I mean, the milk of the word of God is the Torah. It doesn't take much to obey the commandments. They're super simple. They're super common sense. And they are rewarding for your health, for your soul, for your spirit. Look at them. We're going to look at them in 1 second. So, what is he doing? He's preaching the commandments, preaching the Torah. Why is he here? For the lost tribes of Israel. Israel got scattered, and he's going to gather them from the 4 corners of the earth. That's why he sent out the disciples. That's why he brought in the spirit of Acts 2. And during Shavuot, the same time that Israel got him was the same time Acts 2 got him. and they fell upon the people, giving them authority, and then scattered them to the four corners of the earth, even though they asked, now that you've sent the Spirit, can we please have our land? And Jesus is like, nope, you're all going to die out there in the wilderness. And we might die in the wilderness, but we definitely don't want to, you want to be a light of the world. You want to preach the commandments of God. Not in a traditional sense where you wear a small hat and you light candles and you wash your hands religiously or whatever. That's not in here. That's not in here. There's nothing about that in here. But what is in here is something we'll talk about in a minute. You want to put your city on a hill. You want to have big, tall, bright street lights, and make sure your stuff isn't on a bushel. And then use your talents, because God's going to give you the opportunity to use your talents. Sorry about my dirty fingernails. I was a mess. All right, so why is he here? To gather the lost tribes. We are the lost tribes. If you look in Romans 1, and even the greeting, most of the greetings in Paul, because Paul was sent for us. Paul, a servant of the anointed Yeshua, called as an emissary, who has been getting set apart for the good news of the Almighty, which he promised beforehand through his prophets in the holy writings, about his Son, who was born from the seed of David according to the flesh, who has been marked as the Almighty Son with power, according to the Spirit of holiness, by his resurrection from the dead, Yeshua, the anointed, our Adonai. Through him we have received loving kindness and the office of emissary to bring about a faithful listening among all nations for the sake of his name, among whom you also are called by Yeshua the Anointed, to all those living in Rome, beloved of the Almighty, called holy ones, loving kindness to you, and peace from our Almighty Father and Adonai, Yeshua the Anointed. First, I'm giving thanks. So this is how he greets the people he's talking to. This is who we represent. And then if you read the greetings in the epistles of Paul, of Peter, of James, it's very, very interesting. It builds a pattern in your thinking. Who are these people written to? They're written to the lost tribes, the gathering churches, which is the word kahal, and ecclesia, assembly, congregation. People gathered together to worship Elohim through Yeshua, right? And learn how to love. I mean, the textbook can't love. This is paper. And too much focus on just the elements of the paper, you lose the love, right? But you do need the paper, because without some instruction, you are left with no way to have a scale. When I'm weighing something for either feeding an animal or my wife's recipes, you have to have a scale, or you don't know what you're putting in there. Yeah, you can do a pinch here and pinch there. You try to make cheese with just doing a pinch and guessing the temperatures and time. You need a scale. You need a time. You have scales, timers, and tools, right? So, why is he here? Gather the lost tribes. What did he say? Obey my Father. And that's where we're in John 15 really quick. Let's take a look at that. John 15. John 15, I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. Everything Yeshua talks about in any authority, he always puts himself underneath the authority of his Father. Because his Father is the ultimate judge. He's given everything to his Son, Yeshua. And in the same way, like I've given stuff to my son, Kyle, and he has still, asked about how to use it, or discussed it, or held it in reverence and whatnot, because you have the authority over the thing. I don't know if I'll edit that out, but my point is this: the Father gave authority to the Son, but the Son respects the source is the Spirit, right? And yields. It says right here, I am the true vine. I am the vine. I am the result. My Father is the source. My Father is the gardener. Every branch in me that bears no fruit, he takes away, and every branch that bears fruit, he prunes. How is he pruning you, right? You are already clean because of the word which I spoke to you. Stay in me, and I stay in you, as the branch is unable to bear fruit, etc., etc., etc. If you stay in me, and my words stay in you, you will ask whatever you wish, and it shall be done for you. And in this my Father is esteemed, that you bear much fruit, and that you shall be my taught ones. As the Father has loved me, I have also loved you. Stay in my love. If you guard my commandments, you shall stay in my love, even as I have guarded my Father's commandments and stay in his love. These words I have spoken to you, so that my joy might be in you, and that your joy might be complete. That's the same word in Matthew. Complete. Fulfilled. Is your joy done? Is your joy over? No. This is my command, that you love one another as I have loved you. No greater love has this, that you should lay down your life for your friends. You are my friends if you do whatever I command you. No longer I call you servants, because a servant does not know what his master is doing, but I have called you friends, for all the teachings which I have heard from my Father I have made known to you. All right. So, what did he do? What did he say? Obey my Father. What did he do? He atoned for sin. What sin? Well, Adam's sin threw us into a mess. But Abraham was walking with him. Then Elohim wanted his nation. He gave his commandments. And then Israel sinned and blew that all to pieces, ruined the covenant, right? It went from a bride to a stiff-necked child and slave. So Jesus came back to bring us back to Genesis 12 and ratify that covenant so we could become Abraham's seed, Galatians 3. So how many nations does God have? He has one nation. One nation. You are either grafted into God's nation, and I hate to beat a dead horse into glue, but I will. Ephesians 2. For because of loving kindness, you've been getting rescued. Yes, you are, through faithfulness. And it's not your faithfulness, it's God's faithfulness to Abraham. And this getting rescued is not from you. It's from the Almighty. It's a gift, not from customary work, so that man will not have made himself be boasting. Yea, his work we are, being created by the anointed Yeshua for good works, which the Almighty already made beforehand. And those good works are written in the Torah. The works of righteousness are written in the Torah. Therefore, be remembering that when you were the nations in the flesh, those being called uncircumcision, by those being called circumcision in the flesh, being done by hand, because you were at that time without the anointed, having alienated yourself from citizenship in Israel, and foreigners to the covenants of the promise. Hope not having, and godless ones in the world. But now, by way of anointed Yeshua, you, being formerly far away, have been made to come near by the blood of the anointed, because he is the peace offering for us, who has made the two one. You are grafted into the blood of Messiah when you pledge faithfulness to him, when you believing in him, when you are believing in him, your action, right? It's an action word. And because of the faithfulness of Yahweh, you are passed from death to life. You are grafted into Israel, and all these promises are made for you because you are in his nation. And then you just start growing in the same way. You make a vow to your wife and you're married, you're not a good husband. Some are better than others, but it takes growth and years and tears and blood, sweat, and effort and mistakes to become a good husband, to become a good child, to become a good bride of Christ. So what is the Word of God? Well, I tell you one thing, the word of God to us, Elohim, said, he summarized in Exodus. Now, Abraham knew this stuff. Noah knew this stuff. Adam knew this stuff. The commandments have been since creation, because in the beginning was the Word. Yahweh built his rules and covenants before he made people. In the beginning was the Word. The Word is the light, right? Before there were planets, there was the Word, and the Word was light, because without the Word, there is chaos. Remember that. The Word is the creative force. It is the creative force. It is the covenant relationship. It is the visible aspect. It is the flesh of Elohim. It is never going to change. And Elohim spoke all these words, saying, I am Yahweh, your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other mighty ones against me, my face. You do not make for yourself a carved image, or any likeness of that which is in the heavens above, or in the earth beneath, or which is in the waters under the earth. You don't put on a fish hat and call yourself special. You do not bow down to them or serve them, for I, Yahweh, your Elohim, am a jealous El, visiting the crookedness of the fathers on the children of the third, fourth generation. You do not bring the name of Yahweh, your Elohim, to naught, or don't use it in vain, for Yahweh does not leave the one unpunished who brings his name to naught. Then remember the Sabbath day. Set it apart. 6 days you shall labor, do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of Yahweh, your Elohim. You do not do any work, nor you, nor your son, a daughter, male servant, female servant, cattle, etc. Because in 6 days Yahweh made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Therefore Yahweh blessed the seventh day and set it apart. And then the fifth commandment, respect your mother and father, so your days are prolonged. Then do not murder, do not commit adultery, do not steal, and do not bear false witness. Don't covet. Easy. You fire off these 10, and when you stumble, give thanks for mercy. In the same way you go give thanks to your wife for mercy, and then you step out and do better. Spiritually, don't let you be you. Yahweh loves you right now the way you are, but in the same way that you love a baby, you don't want the baby to stay a baby. In the same way you love your teenager, you do not want your teenager to stay a teenager. And in the same way you love your husband or wife, you do not want them to stay the same that they are today. You want them to be better tomorrow than they were today. So I pray that you would be better tomorrow than you are today. And I pray that you'd be better after you get up from watching this than you were before. All right. Well, have a blessed day, a great Sabbath, and I'll see you on the next one.